devices. Coming up, Ghana's external creditors meet today to decide whether or not to provide relief to unlock the $3 billion IMF bailout.
I want to make a double plea on their behalf. Help them handle the burden of debt, which has made life in this country so much harder.
In business,
Ghana set to finalize negotiations for an IMF program approval this month as annual IMF World Bank Spring Meetings opens in Washington, D.C. today.
Also coming up, Ghana Water Company overwhelmed with complicated illegal connections by some consumers who connive with some of their staff.
Per policy, if you are found condoning and conniving with a customer to steal water or to deprive the company of the needed revenue, it's outright dismissal, yes.
We have details of that, and also the Joy FM Easter Soup Kitchen makes a stop at the Wager Leprosarium. We'll tell you the harrowing story of the youngest resident of the shelter who was abandoned by her family after they found out about her condition.
The mother ran away. The grandfather said she's not human because she's leprosy, and he wanted to do rituals. So they just abandoned her. We took her here.
And later, how is the life of a former public servant like?
I used to live at cantonments. Every morning you find cars and people parked coming to see me. The day we held the elections, results were announced, though I conceded that I had lost. If you pass in front of that place, there wasn't a fly.
More as John Dramani Mahama shares his life as a former president. I am Maame Esi Thompson. Thanks for choosing us. Now the details. Ghana's external creditors, the Paris Club, are meeting today to decide whether or not to provide enough relief to enable the country to unblock a $3 billion IMF deal. China holds $1.7 billion out of the $4 billion owed the club. Joy News is learning that Chinese authorities have pledged their support in the ongoing negotiations, but it is unclear if they will accept Ghana's proposal for debt cancellation. A decision by the Chinese will have a major impact on government's resolve to get an IMF deal. Speaking ahead of the IMF World Bank Spring Meeting in Washington, D.C., the managing director of the IMF, Kristalina Georgieva, made an appeal for debt relief for debt-distressed countries.
I want to make a double plea on their behalf. Help them handle the burden of debt, which has made life in this country so much harder because of multiple shocks in the last years. And secondly, help ensure that the IMF continues to be in a position to support them in the years ahead.
Joy Business Editor George Riafe is covering the IMF Spring Meetings and will bring us more in subsequent bulletins. Now, the Ghana Water Company says it is overwhelmed with complicated illegal connections by some consumers who connive with some of their staff members. Public Relations Officer of the company, Stanley Marty, says their recent revenue mobilization and disconnection exercise exposed the level of illegality by some consumers. Speaking to Joy News, Mr. Marty said some of their staff believed to have aided the illegality have been dismissed.
People are involved in very complicated illegal connections, and sometimes if you are not an expert, you wouldn't be able to identify that this is an illegal connection. But thanks to God, we train our people very well, so they are able to identify them, and then we cause the arrest. And per policy, if you are found condoning, it's outright dismissal.
I mean, do you hand them over to the police or something?
We've had occasion of doing that a few times, but I mean, outright dismissal is enough.
The company is also worried about the quality of water coming from the Volta Lake as a result of intense fish farming. Here's Stanley Martin once again.
It is not only galamsey or alluvial mining that is affecting the water bodies. Now we see even aquaculture on the Volta Lake, and it is terrible now. Every nautical mile on the Volta Lake, you will see several fish farms. And it's affecting the quality of the water. We're seeing industrial effluent in the water now.
Stanley Marty is Public Relations Officer of the Ghana Water Company Limited. Political comments made by Minister for Agriculture Brian Achampon that the NPP will never hand over power to the NDC has attracted widespread public condemnation. The NDC, political parties and security think tanks have since described the comment as unhealthy and capable of inflaming the political tensions in the country. The Institute for Democratic Governance has since called on President Akufo-Addo to intervene and bring an end to the ensuing tensions ahead of the 2024 elections. There's more in the following report.
The National Youth Organizer of the NDC was the first to take on the Agri Minister for his comment. On a Facebook Live video, Mr. Yamin said the only reason Brian Achampon is getting away with his comment is because the leader of the NPP, as well as the president of the country, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, has set a bad example.
And this is not the first time. The first person who made that statement, unfortunately, is coming from the President of the Republic.
Featuring on the probe Sunday, April 9, with MFA Apawu, MP for Ebuakwa South, Samuel Atachia, said his colleagues' comment have been taken out of context. He wants the public to ignore.
There was nothing fiery about it. It was just in context that like you having a good fight, I'll beat you to pulp. If you said that, doesn't mean that you're going to use violence or anything. It's a political language.
But security analyst Dr. Ishmael Norman has called on the IGP to invite Mr. Brian Achampon for further questioning.
So for the meantime, I think it's just posturing. However, the security agencies must be super alert.
Executive Director of the Institute for Democratic Governance, Dr. Emmanuel Akwete, called on the president to intervene.
I think the person to speak is the president on this matter, and his ability to dismiss it as not his policy is extremely important.
And that was a News Desk report. Now, some members of Parliament from the Upper West region are appealing to the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Babwin, to lead efforts in the resolution of the 65-year-old Boko conflict. The protracted chieftaincy conflict has claimed thousands of lives, and just last week, an immigration officer killed by unknown gunmen. The MP for Wild West, Peter Tobu, who is leading the call, says the Speaker's neutrality can help bring a permanent solution to the crisis.
The Boko conflict will become a thing of the past. I'm putting something together to address the president. We need to bring the Speaker of Parliament involved in this matter. I think that he has the credibility, he has the neutrality or the impartiality, he has the experience to be able to look at his own brothers in the face and say, let's sit down and look at what we can do. This is long too much.
Abandoned and rejected by her family, that's the harrowing story of the youngest resident at the Wager Leprosaurium. The child was renounced by her family members when they found out about her condition. Founder and director of the Lepers Aid Committee, Father Andrew Campbell, told Joy News a family member was planning to use her for rituals when his team rescued her. He spoke at this year's Joy FM Easter Soup Kitchen.
This is the Wager Leprosarium, and this year Joy FM Easter Soup Kitchen is here.
We've used it in news, we've covered stories, but I have never personally been here, and so I'm excited.
Look, I would cherish it all.
The way they've been stigmatized over the years is awful. For this little girl, we sent a team up to Wa to distribute food, and in their distribution of food, they found this little girl. She was abandoned. The family have abandoned her. The mother ran away. The grandfather said she's not human because she's leprosy, and he wanted to do rituals. So they just abandoned her. We took her here, and we've had to bring her to so many doctors since she came here. One being a psychiatrist, because she wouldn't talk. She just talks a little. She's learning how to talk. But she was so traumatized. There's stigmatization and marginalization. I mean, one CD a day, it's not enough.
Some of the residents also shared their talents with the crowd.
If you know me, I know you. You know me.
Now, a public servant has many friends and admirers while he or she is in active service. What happens to that person when he or she leaves office? NDC flag bearer John Mahama has been sharing his life as a former president. He was speaking at the end of the Adabaka Assemblies of God District Easter Convention.
I used to live at Cantonments. For those of you who pass the Nafty Road, there was a barrier there. Every morning you find cars and people parked coming to see me. Every morning. The day we held the elections, Results were announced. I called Nana Akufo-Addo. I conceded that I had lost. If you pass in front of that place, there wasn't a fly, not even a goat. And so you must realize that all the trappings of office are transient. In the end, it is not all that embellishment that will take you forward in life. It is the respect you gain as a person and how you handled yourself with modesty and humbleness.
And that's former President John Mahama. Flag bearer hopeful for the NDC ending the bulletin. In our top story, you heard Ghana's external creditors to meet today to decide whether or not to provide relief to unblock the $3 billion IMF bailout. I am Maame Esi Thompson. Up next is business.
You know, Papa, see that? And it's Ricky Tika. Hey, Papa.